Hello and welcome. Today I want to talk about the Noctigon KR4 Quinta from Hank Wang. This is about almost a year that I've had it, and I just want to go over the recap on it and some thoughts about my experiences using it. We have the model that's in titanium and in copper, and it features 2 channels of LEDs. I got the W1 Osram 6000 temperature rated LEDs inside of it, and I also got the high CRI Nichia 219B 3500 temperature rated LEDs for the other channel. And this setup works fantastic, as I've found in my uses for both a thorough LED with the W1 Osrams and a close-up inspection high color rendering index light with the warmer tint of the Nichia 219B emitters, particularly on the rosier side of the scale. And I find that as a very pleasant and fun user experience. I enjoy the light quite a lot. Now I want to start out with some of the negatives that I found first, and then we'll go over some of the positives. Some of the negatives are that tail switch is not very good in terms of being able to activate the light in its modes unless it's pressed directly on the tail switch here. So that is a bit of a bummer. You do get used to it, but I feel for the price and how much you pay for it, it should be a little better and better designed. It's kind of gritty. It's not a fun user experience in some cases, and it does lead to some accidental clicking or misclicking, so you don't get to the modes within the Anduril 2.0 UI. So that is a negative. I think they should fix that or make that a smoother experience somehow. I'm not sure how exactly. Perhaps maybe make it a smoother switch, maybe tighten the tolerances or loosen the tolerances in some cases with that. The other thing is what I suspect is the internal tube, battery tube, the black tube that connects electronically the switch to the head. I've noticed in these types of lights, especially with the Lumentop LM10, metal contracts and expands depending on the temperature. I've noticed that this light can get finicky with its contact points. I've cleaned it. I've tried all sorts of things, and it sometimes can be finicky. And there was a period in the summer where it was really finicky for a while, and then it stopped. I haven't had any issues since then, so it might have been something I was doing, user error, or it could have been design error, or both. I'm not entirely sure, but I think if they have a better system than that tube inside, perhaps a more rugged system that doesn't have intermittent contact issues, that would be a good idea. That being said, the other last negative I have of it would be probably, it's not really negative, it's more of a note that this light's not really for beginners in terms of flashlight enthusiasm. This is a very complex and complicated light because of the Anduril UI system and the way you have to engage the UI with just the clicking here. So that is something to consider. I don't consider it a negative necessarily for myself, as I like the challenge of it. And it's not necessarily the fault of the designers in that case, specifically speaking. I think Toykeeper does a fantastic job of creating and updating the software. Now, I did get the USB programming came out with this last year, but I have not used it because the UI has done everything that I wanted to do, and I see no reason to change it if it's working. So in other words, I'm not going to try to fix something that's not broken, right? That being said, there's a lot of customizations. Moving on to the positives with this, you can customize this light to whatever environment or needs that you want. My particular needs was that I wanted something with good throw, but also a high CRI warm tint option as well for up close inspections, and this light delivers on that. For its size and category, the light is perfect as an 18650 light. Now, some might say it's not a practical light. It's only not practical if you don't set it up to your specifications to be practical. You have to work with the light. It's a tool. Of course, there's other lights out there that are 18650 formats that might be more efficient in terms of just run times and outputting light, which is the whole entire function of a flashlight. I do agree with you on that. There's other practical lights out there, of course. This one is a conversation piece, and there's something to be said about the enjoyment of having your EDC items or your lights that can do multiple jobs. To me, this is like the Swiss Army of lights, in my opinion, because it has aux LEDs inside that you can program the colors, the brightness levels, and the modes. Instead of having a constant on, you can have this blinking too. And it has 2 channels of different LEDs that you can customize, or a single quad channel if you want that as well. So this comes with a variety of different options from Hank Wang's site and also Jackson Lee's flashlight site. So if you're looking for this light, those are the 2 sites I recommend checking out for all the gear. And they're both very friendly and knowledgeable and good customer service. Let's weigh this light real quick just to see how it weighs with the LiThiCore 3000 milliamp hour battery inside. This is the titanium and copper version once again. We're measuring in ounces here. So we have the lanyard and the lanyard holder. It comes out to about 6.5 ounces with this current setup. So that's something to keep in mind, that this is a pretty heavy light. And you do feel it in the pocket. It's a traditional cylindrical light. The texturing on the titanium body is perfect for gripping. It's not too aggressive, but it's not too smooth. It does work fairly well, in my opinion. And it's a good size for my hand. I have kind of small hands, so it fits pretty well in the hands here. The copper heat sinking on near the head here works fairly decently for dissipating heat. And it acquires a nice little patina after almost a year of in use. So the lanyard I switched out. It does come with a pocket clip too, which is kind of nice, but I found myself leaning towards more of a more minimalistic type of body. I'm a lanyard guy when it comes to lights. One of the things I like to do with my lights is put the lanyard on my wrist. So if I drop the light for any reason, or I need to use both my hands, I can drop it briefly with the light still remaining on and operate with my hands and then pick up the light. Or I can stuff it in my coat pocket in the winter especially. And I can have it concealed for a short amount of time if I figure I'm going to need to use it without having to go into my pockets. I just pull it out from my sleeve or slide it out or whatever, and it comes out and it's ready to go. The way I have this set up is that the turquoise lights here means that it is locked out. You can turn these off completely or dim them down in the lockout mode. And in the non-lockout mode, you can change the colors and also turn them off or have them do a different mode. Much like the lockout mode, you can also change the colors in the lockout mode too. So let's unlock this with 4 clicks here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're on. If I turn it off, we'll see that it has the amber combination of LEDs. This is a combination of green and red LEDs to create an amber type of look. So you can still see the green and red, so it's not a true amber. That's fine with me, but that's cool seeing that, and that allows me to tell that this is not locked out. Now with the Anduril 2.0 software is that it's very complex, as we stated before, but it also offers a high level of customization with the KR4. In this case, I have this customized to turn into lockout mode or turn off into lockout mode after about 2 or 3 minutes, and this will change LED colors. So if we lock this out, 1, 2, 3, 4, we're in turquoise aux LED. So now I know it's locked out. So I have a visual indicator that this light is not active and it won't burn a hole in my pocket or turn on high or whatever. So that is a safety issue that I like to engage with light. Some people don't do that, and that's fine. But for me, it's just more of a safety feature. You can still access the dual channels from the lockout mode, which I do like about this, and you can switch the channel active channels too. So to do that, you just hold down and then you can release. So it's got a momentary on, right? And it comes in on the low floor mode. And if we 1, 2, 3 hold, it swaps the channels. Now we're with the oshrooms here. So that's really nice, a nice feature that they've included in the lockout mode at least. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're now back active. Now I have this set up for the default mode of the step ramp. I don't have the smooth ramp set up on this because I find that I can kind of have a fixed point as a reference to run the light on. And that fixed point is we're on step 1 out of 7. So if we go to 2, 3, I find that 3 is the best step out of all my steps that I use in terms of EDC use. And the reason why is that it doesn't run too hot and that it outputs just enough light that I can see in front of me. And with my current emitter setup, I can see far out with the W1s. And if I need to get in close, 1, 2, 3, hold, I now have my Nietzsche 219B warm emitters and 3500 Kelvin temperature rating, and this offers a good close-up experience, a fun user experience where I can see the CRI index pretty well, and I like my warm temperatures. So it's good for close-up work, and I mainly use it on this mode the most, on step 3. Sometimes I'll switch it over to smooth wrapping just to have a little bit of fun or just have a different variety. And that's what I like about the Anduril system, is that you can kind of change it on the fly if you want it for your own uses. And you can get to a high port of the step ramp here, which is very useful too. I typically run this on the highs with just one channel active, because it does get very, very hot when both channels are engaged, and it'll show you right here what it looks like. So we're in either channel. It doesn't matter what channel you're on. If you double click, this will give you both in turbo mode immediately, and that is blinding bright, and you can feel the heat coming off this light. So this will get super hot in the front. One fun thing to note with this mode, and if you run it like that, if your hands are really cold out in the winter, I found if I run this for maybe about 5 to 10 seconds on that turbo mode, I get a nice warm pocket warmer or hand warmer, because my hands tend to freeze. So that is a nice little tip and trick that I recommend trying out in the winter in the cold. If your hands are cold, this can function as a pocket warmer. So, but going back to the light itself, I only use it on single channels on the highest modes because it just works better out in terms of practicality. And I like being able to swap the modes here too. So we get a lot of different options when you run it in terms of the current setup that I have. The other feature that I like about the light is the Anduril feature. And I've always liked it since the first version 1 that I got in these kind of lights about 2 years ago. In the 2.0, it adds that timer feature, which is really nice. But it has the same features as you can find in the version 1.0, and we're in the advanced feature set of this. I'm not going to go into too much depth about Anduril because it can be a whole video in itself. But basically, I can check my voltage on this, so I can click 1, 2, 3, and it blinks the voltage here. So the first number that it blinks is the bigger number, 1, 2, 3. So we're at 3 volts. At 3.10 volts. So that's the way it's going to read. The first number is 3. The second number gives you the point whatever, or whichever part of the voltage you're going to be reading on the other side of the decimal point. So you can get a fairly quick idea about the battery level in your light before you go to use it, which is very important. I believe you can change the voltage level to reflect the battery a little bit more accurately, so you can kind of calibrate it a little bit. The other feature I like about this is the candlelight modes. I use that quite a lot for fun. I have a diffuser that I put onto this, and I put it on the candlelight mode, and it creates a good serene mood light and ambient type of light. Of course, there's other modes with it. There's like a blinking mode, there's a beaking mode, there's a bike blinking mode with both channels are engaged. So you get a lot of options basically with this light, a lot of fun options too in some cases. One of my more favorite options of this is, let's do 1, 2, 3, hold. We'll get into the candlelight mode here. We're actually in thunder mode. I set it for thunder mode last. So as you can see, it's like kind of randomly going bright and low, flashing. It's supposed to mimic a thunderstorm, like one of those old school film type of thunderstorm lightning effects. I like that a lot about this. And the nice thing about in this mode, you can still swap the channels. So we're on the oshrooms, right? So we go, let's see if I can do this right. 1, 2, 3, hold. Now we have the Nietzsche channel engaged, and that's more of a fun kind of thing to put up. So you can have a lot of fun with this light. It's got a lot of different options basically in the modes here. Now we're in the candle mode, which you can brighten. You can lower the brightness levels. So this is a nice ambient kind of light option to have with a hand light that does so many more other things. So you can have a lot of fun with this basically is what I'm saying. That's another bonus of it. Overall, if you're looking for a light that can do a lot of things, and it's not for a beginner, it's more for the person wants to invest their time into figure out the features of Anduril and diving deep into the enthusiasm world, this would be a nice light to grab. Again, you can get it from Hank Wayne's website or Jackson Lee's website. And they get a lot of options that come with this, sometimes extra optics you can get with this, programming cables, batteries, even tritium vials you can put into the cap. I know they have a cap now that has 3 slots in it, so instead of just 1 here. I have a glow-in-the-dark piece in here right now. That's a lot of fun to use. The lanyard on it, I like using this a lot more than the pocket clip. Initially, I had the pocket clip installed on here, but I wanted something a little bit more form-fitting and less weight, so I just opted with the lanyard and the lanyard option that this ships with. So it's nice to have that. I do have a smaller tube with this, an 18350 tube. I don't use that as much, as I find that the 18650 capacity makes this a pretty practical light when used properly with the step modes as I discussed before. The 18350 is a nice size, but it's still kind of thick and big. I feel like that wasn't the best way to run this light. So others might disagree. That might be their jam. More power to you. Overall, I do recommend the light despite the problems with the finicky contact issue and the tail issue, the tail switch issue. Despite all that, it's still my favorite light. Still my best light for the 18650 form factor in terms of its options of throwing and also up close high CRI options. It has the best of all worlds in my needs, plus a lot of fun modes and options with it, including the aux lights and the different flickering modes, as we'll call it, and also the option to check the battery level and set the temperature rating and use it as a temperature thermometer in some cases. So although we didn't go over that, but there's plenty of other things. Like I said, we could talk about the Anduril 2.0. And that's all I have to say about the Noctigon KR4. Thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy your day.